Hey everyone. Hey everyone, Brandon here from B2R Investing and Financial Talk. Want to have a conversation today about the middle class trap and what we're taught even from an early age and how it affects us for the rest of our lives. Some things I want to visit about is it really starts, from what I can remember, from a lot in junior high up. You start to get caught up with what you wear, what you have, and how you fit in society, and where you're groomed by the world to be a consumer society. We want to look like we've made it in life, whether we have or not. Then it translates on into college, getting into debt to get that degree, to where you're basically a slave to that debt to work for the rest of your life. The education system teaches us to be a worker, teaches us to work for the rest of our lives because it creates the U.S. economy. And then you get stuck in that middle class trap. Once we make it in life, once we've gone on to our careers, we start working, and what do they teach us? To save for retirement. But what I would say the lie is to that is you can't save fast enough because of inflation. Let me just tell you a little illustration. I have it here. So what do I have? Got it here. I've got a $100 bill and a $1 bill. What's the difference between the two? You would say $99, but not much different. It's the same size. The government uses the same kind of material, the same ink. All they do is print a different number on it. And so the effects of fiat currency is inflation, because the government, instead of spending what they take in, they say we'll spend as much as we can because we can always print more. Because they know society, they tell them to save enough. And unfortunately what that does is allows you or makes you work 40, 45 years of your life saving in this great 401k plan that they sold us in Gen X, that causes us to work the rest of our lives. And then we end up, when we're finally able to sort of retire, we're living on less than 40%. If we take the rule of what they're talking about, the 4% rule, let's just go back to 2000. 2000, it takes $2 more from 2000 than it does today to live on. What took $1 back then, it's actually $1.90 today, just in those 25 years. So what took $50,000 back in 2000 now takes almost $100,000 to have the similar lifestyle. And if we go by their own 4% rule, what is it going to take 25 years from now? What's $100,000 now? We would have to save up $2.5 million to earn to be able to live on the 4% from our 401k. That would equal the $100,000. But we know 25 years from now, that $100,000, let's just do the similar, almost 2 times, we're going to now have to have $200,000 for the lifestyle of $100,000 today. But on the $100,000, it would take $2.5 million. Say, okay, how easy is that? Well, let's look at the actual numbers of retirement plans. Only 3% of those participating in retirement plans have $1 million. Those that are at $2.5 million are less than 1% of all those saving for retirement will have $2.5 million. So you can't save fast enough. I began to start thinking through this in my 40s. Now, I was building a small business, and that was part of my retirement plan, but knew that I had to have assets. And the only way I could get to retirement building the wealth fast enough was using leverage. And so I looked at real estate because you can make money 5 different ways in real estate. And you have the power of other people's money with leverage. But on the other hand, I wanted to be conservative because I came up into banking and I watched people fail because they were highly leveraged. So I looked at the ultimate principle. The ideal principle is to start at 70%. So I began there with all my rental properties because I wanted to not just make it through the easy times. I wanted to underwrite it, to stress test it, to make sure I kept it for the hard times. And I knew wealth was created not short-term quickly, it was over the years, and being real estate, it takes about 10 years. And those that are truly generational wealth keep the properties for decades. So I wanted to go that route and got to wealth in literally less than 10 years, created wealth of a couple of $1 million by my build to rent model of what I do. That doesn't say everybody needs to do that, but that's how I was doing it. And I didn't have to sell the asset to pay the bills. The asset built wealth and generated cash flow. And that cash flow will growth, and it's a hedge against inflation, plus the wealth that grew in it. And the wonderful thing is, the IRS only taxes income, not wealth. So as that wealth grows within that real estate, I can and have the flexibility of borrowing against the wealth as it grows over the decades, and I can pull, almost like pulling forward the cash flow forward, borrowing against the equity in the property, borrowing against that cash flow as it grew over the decades, tax-free. So I could get out of the middle class trap, because the middle class trap is they borrow money, which is, unfortunately, they use bad debt to try to look wealthy, but the wealthy use good debt to become even more wealthier and grow their wealth. The middle class, they're buying a nicer house, a nicer car, let's just say it, the Louis Vuitton purses, the Lululemon spandex. Their purchases are using credit cards because they're middle class, they have the income, but it's looking at buying things that don't appreciate. They're not assets. They go down in value, and they're paying interest. Their whole concern in the middle class is being able to say, can I afford the payments? The wealthy use debt to buy assets that grow in value and produce cash flow because they believe, they understand that this goes down in value every day. So when I'm using good debt to buy my real estate assets, over each year I'm paying it down with cheaper and cheaper dollars, plus those cheaper dollars are causing my asset to grow in value, and then I can borrow against it using the rents from my tenants that are paying higher and higher rents over the decades with cheaper dollars, and I get to pull out all of that equity tax-free. This is what the wealthy do. They let leverage and good debt grow their wealth, and they use the power for what I would say the ignorance of the politicians and government to continue to print more and more fiat money to create the inflation to grow my wealth, and letting renters pay for my wealth. Unfortunately, this was said back in the mid-90s, so almost 35 years ago. Robert Reich, the Treasury Secretary, said, it's a K-shaped economy. We have 2 different economies, and you're participating in one. And some are participating more than others. The asset owners grow in wealth. The asset renters get less wealth. and get poor. So what the middle class does, yes, they buy a home, but they're ending up, it's a bad debt in that it doesn't pay you money. It does grow in value. That is one positive thing to it, and you're paying with cheaper dollars. But the rest of their debt, they're buying things that depreciate in value. You can get out of this trap and begin changing your lifestyle. I began to start realizing that in my 40s. I'm now 53. Mid 40s, the big ahas were happening as I was studying, where do I want to go? How do I get out of this rat race and get to financial freedom faster? I'm there now. I could retire today. I'm choosing to honestly to still work because I want to. I'm doing things that I love to do now. I don't dread going to work. I'm doing something I love to do. I'm building out my real estate. I'm building out this business. I'm building it for my kids and hopefully my grandkids. I don't have any yet, but I'm thinking about my children's children. And I'm creating these videos because I hope someday they'll listen to them and learn from them. My kids hear it now, but these videos will outlive me. Get out of the middle class trap. Get into investments where you can use the power of leverage. Unfortunately, the 401k, yes, you say you might have a 50 cent on the dollar matching. You can't get there fast enough. The power of real estate, I realized it. That is where the leverage is the fastest, and owning a small business. Leverage through people. So I went into that path. In 5 years, built wealth of several millions of dollars, and now growing the cash flow and using those levers. It's been 4 years as of this month. So they say 10 years. I can't imagine what it'll look like in 6 years. Should reach where I decide to change my lifestyle. I anticipate in the next few years that I'll change a little bit, but I love what I do now. It's not work to me. It's a passion project, just like this YouTube channel. Get out of the middle class rat race. Get out of that trap. Get into wealth. Building wealth through other people's money, through the power of leverage, using what the government does to your advantage. Till next time.